Hello, you guys. I love that some of you are already here so early. Let me find my wing woman here and put Cindy in here to help out. Hey, Cindy.
Hello.
Hi, now I can hear you. I'm so excited. I love February. It is my favorite conversations that we have in human design in February. We always talk about human design and relationships and how we can make the most out of our relationships. And it's a juicy conversation that we're going to be having all month long. So without further ado, do that, right? Is that right? Am I pushing the right button, Cindy?
I don't know. Did you push the live? I'm not seeing you. It must be.
No, I'm not live yet. I'm not live yet. I mean, I'm live, but I'm not live. So
You
I'm
did push
live.
the recording button, so that's good.
The recording button is going. The video spotlighted. Okay, I'm ready. Are you guys ready? I'm assuming you're ready. It's a webinar. I can't hear you back yet, but I hope you're ready.
Well, Carolyn says ready.
Yay. All right, good. So let me get this launched onto Facebook. And Cindy, I'm going to let me know when we're there.
I'm watching.
Okay.
Linda says hi from Toronto, Canada.
Hi, Linda. Okay, there we go. We have a lot of pages. Okay. We should be there soon.
Not yet.
Almost.
Almost.
Hang on.
You're live. You are live.
Okay, awesome. See, it always goes live before it's done loading. So hi, everybody, and welcome to the Quantum Alignment Show. I gotta pushing all the right buttons. We are talking today about relationships. February is Heart Month, and we are going to be focusing on all the things that make our hearts happy and that promote connections in the heart, and looking at how do we increase love in our life, especially working with human design, but not limited to working with human design. We are going to this month we're going to be talking about all kinds of relationships. Today, we're going to be looking at the dynamics of how we relate, or some of the mechanics of how we relate, and most importantly, the kinds of energy needs that we have when we go into a relationship, and the key components necessary for us to create and craft evolved and conscious relationships and to experience real love, unconditional love. Next week, we're in flux next week, so I'm going to be a little bit of a tease this week and say stay tuned, because we are working on a pretty big surprise for next week, and once we have all the final details sewed up, I will announce it on the Human Design for Everyone Facebook page, and if you are one of my subscribers, you'll get an email about it as well. If you're not one of my subscribers, at the very top of the Human Design for Everyone Facebook page, there is a sign up button. You can go there and you can be included in our mailings, so you know what's going on and all the things we do. And we do a lot of stuff. So a lot of stuff. If you are new to human design, I invite you to go to our webpage, understandinghumandesign.com. Get your free human design chart and report so you can get started in discovering more about your unique energy blueprint, your life path, your life purpose, and most importantly, how you can start creating a life that is the reflection of the magnificence of who you truly are. Not next week, but the following week, we're actually going to have a guest presenter on the Quantum Alignment Show. Kristen Shorter, who is a parenting expert and a mama extraordinaire, is going to be coming and talking about human design and how do we parent children according to our human design. We're then going to continue rounding out the rest of the month with other juicy conversations about relationships, including talking about things like what's the best way to find your soulmate, and is everybody designed to be married or not? And is monogamy the way we're all created to be, or are there other ways that we can engage in relationships? Those are some of the juicier things we're going to be talking about. We're also going to talk about how to best communicate with each other so that you can increase communication in your relationship and make your relationships more honoring and respectful. That being said, I have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to jump right into the slides and get started today with our presentation. So hang on a second. And Cindy, I'm going to let me know that the slides are working.
Slides are working.
Awesome. Cool. So welcome to the Quantum Alignment System, which is a system that incorporates human design and integrated coaching to support you in bringing out the full expression of the truth of who you are. In today's program, we're going to be talking about relationships by design. We're going to talk about your relationship DNA, your human design, and who you really are. Now, if you happen to catch our show last week, we talked a lot about the G Center. The G Center is the diamond in the center of the chart. This is the center for love and direction. It's also the place where we contain the heart's magnetic resonance field that is responsible for attracting into our life experiences opportunities to support us in learning what we need to learn, and supports us ultimately in living, attracting opportunities that are most resonant with how we're experiencing or expressing our life right now. This is actually where you've heard of the law of attraction. This is where the mechanics of how the law of attraction works, the actual mechanical source of attraction energy, that force of energy that brings things into your life, actually lives in your heart, in the heart of who you are. What we talked about last week, which is really important for us to understand as we continue our conversation this week, is that we will attract experiences and opportunities into our life that will either help us learn or will be a reflection of where we are with our own energy. If we look at this center as the blueprint for what is possible for humanity and the ultimate direction that we are designed to take our life towards we are designed to love ourselves. We are designed to be powerful. We are designed to be unique creative expressions of the divine. We are designed to be empowered to create a story about who we perceive ourselves to be and what we choose to be living each and every day. We can get up and change the story of who we want to be and the direction we want to take our life in accordance to that story. We are designed to have a deeply engaging and supportive relationship with spirit as part of our direction-giving energy and part of our source of love in our life. We are designed to be vital, to embody the spark of life and to live that spark of life in an empowered, juicy, devoted, joyful way. We are designed to be supported to the degree to which we're actually literally designed to receive everything we need in life to fulfill our life purpose and our destiny. And ultimately, we are also designed to be compassionate and to live not only with compassion for ourselves, but to be in a place where we take a direction in our life that serves us in being compassionate and increasing compassion on the planet with each other. But of course, over the journey of our life, sometimes we forget that this is the truth of who we are, that as a species, we are designed to love ourselves, love each other, engage in this perpetual creative process, stay connected to source, be powerful, be supported, be vital, and be compassionate. We stray away from our relationship DNA and our life DNA, and it oftentimes will cause us then to attract into our life things that are either a reflection of where we maybe fall down on the expression of those energies, or things that are designed to help us remember, sometimes by falling down, how we can get back to our true relationship DNA and the true nature of love in our lives. The thing that knocks us off course, the thing that takes us off of our relationship DNA is conditioning. Now, before I go deep into talking about conditioning today, if you are looking at this video live on Facebook on the Human Design for Everyone page, you'll see on the left-hand side of that page, there's a tab there that says videos. And if you click on that tab, you're actually going to find a huge library of videos that we've posted on this page over the years. And there is actually, I think it's either the second or the third row down, there is actually a nice little video that I stuck there about maybe 2 months ago about conditioning. If you want to learn more about conditioning, it's a really nice place to go and just get a good overview of what is conditioning. I'm also going to talk in this class about what conditioning is. By the way, you'll also find in there all kinds of other videos that we've done over time, including one that I posted earlier this week about the mechanics of prayer and how, when we look at the Human Design chart, we see the correct process for praying and how you can use the mechanics of prayer to actually tap into the quantum field and find answers to maybe things that are challenging you. So let's go back to what we're doing today. Our conditioning knocks us off of our relationship DNA or causes us to lose connection with the natural order of our heart, which the natural order of our heart is all about love, being and giving and receiving and being in the flow of love. But as I said, sometimes our conditioning causes us to lose connection with that and causes us to take all kinds of interesting ideas and beliefs and energies into our relationships. So let's talk a little bit about what is conditioning and how does it cause us to lose connection with the truth of who we are. In Human Design, there are 4 kinds of conditionings. Actually, I'm going to tell you today, I'm going to talk about 5. So there's 4 on this list, but I'm actually going to talk about 5 kinds of conditioning. Those kinds of conditioning are called openness by center, imprinting, generational energy patterns, and genetics. And I'm going to go through all of these in a little bit more detail. In Human Design, let's talk first about Human Design and open centers. When you look at your Human Design chart, you'll see that on your chart you have energies that are colored in, or shapes and lines that are colored in, and you'll see you have shapes and lines that are white. Anything that is colored in we call defined. So I'm just walking you through some of the vocabulary here. So anything in your chart that you have colored in is called defined. Anything that you have white on your chart we call open, or sometimes you'll hear me call it undefined, or sometimes you'll see it written as undefined. Your open centers, your undefined centers, are energy centers, and by the way, an energy center is just simply an information processing part of your personality. So you have different processing centers, information processing centers. There are 9 of them in the Human Design chart. Each one of those centers is responsible for processing different themed energies. So in this particular slide, for example, and if you look at what's circled here, you'll see the will center is open, it's white, and it's circled here, which means in the information processing center that's responsible for the energy of the will, which is the seat of willpower. It's also the energy for translating information and making it material. So this is a very actually materialistic part of the chart. This is a place where we have the energy for things like money and sales and truth and integrity and business contracts and management and allocation of resources. That's some of the themes that are contained in that information center. We're not going to worry so much about that today, but here's what I want you to know about today when we talk about conditioning. Anything, any center or any gate or any line on the chart that's white is open. Anything that's open or undefined is where you take energy in from the world outside of you. And you don't just take energy in your openness, you actually take it in and you amplify it in your openness. So anything in your chart that's white is where you, over the course of your whole life, you've been taking energy in from the world around you, and you've been experiencing that energy in an amplified, so an intense way, and you've been experiencing that energy in a variable kind of a way, because your experience of that energy is going to change depending on who you're with and actually depending on how the planets are moving. Sometimes we get energy there from the planets and the planetary transits. Sometimes we get energy there from the people around us. So you have a variety of different experiences in your openness, and you have not only a variety, but an amplified experience with your openness. Part of why that gets interesting for us or confusing, and sometimes why it causes us to lose connection with the truth of who we are, is when you look at your chart, the things that are colored in, all the parts that are defined, okay, all the parts that are defined are fixed, meaning all the parts that are colored in your chart, that's your energy. That's who you are. That's actually the energy that you radiate out into the world. When people stand in your energy field, this is the part of you that they feel from you. They feel your definition. Your definition is consistent and it's fixed. It's yours. And actually, when we talk about you need to be your authentic self, that's you. That's the colored in parts. That's your authentic aspect of yourself, the part that stays consistent and true. The open part has a lot of variability. Okay, so we have openness where we have variability, not only just variability, we have variability and amplification. And so what happens is when we have open centers and we go out into the world, or when you grow up and you have open centers and you live with your parents and your brothers and sisters and maybe your grandparents or whoever else was in your family home of origin, you get conditioned, meaning you get so used to experiencing other people's energy in your open centers in an amplified way that sometimes what happens is you lose connection with your own energy, that fixed, consistent, colored in parts, and instead you start to believe that you are other people's energies because you're so used to experiencing them and so used to experience them in an intense and amplified way. Sometimes we begin to think, or we adopt predictable behavioral patterns, particularly in relationships, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later in the presentation. We have predictable behavioral patterns that are really not true. They're not really true to who we really are. We're actually oftentimes living out or being hijacked by other people's energies, other people's thoughts, other people's inspirations, other people's emotions, other people's adrenaline energy, other people's immune center energy, other people's work energy, even other people's life path and direction. So when we enter into our relationships, sometimes when we go into a relationship, we are going into a relationship with mistaken ideas about who we are, and we're going into a relationship living out predictable behavioral patterns based on those mistaken ideas of who we think we are. And then we're trying to have a relationship with energy that's not ours, that isn't consistent, that has variability with it. And then we get frustrated because somehow our energy needs in our relationships aren't being met. And we feel hurt or misunderstood or abandoned or confused because the patterns that we're used to haven't been lived out the same way, and we don't understand why is it not working, or why isn't it like it was when I was growing up, or why is this thing that I think is me not actually having impact in the relationship anymore. So openness by center, any place where you have openness, is where you get conditioned, meaning you start to think you're something you're not. And sometimes when we go out into the world, it takes us a good 20 or 30 years to go, hey, wait, you know what? That's not really who I am. But we take that not who I am into our relationships with us sometimes. The second thing that conditions us, and sometimes conditions us away from the truth of who we are, is imprinting. We can explain a lot by human design, and certainly you can even explain some aspects of imprinting, but the truth is, not just by human design, but biologically, we are literally imprinted by our parents' behaviors. We look at how they behave. We see how they behave. We feel and know their belief systems. We see their behavioral patterns. And sometimes we get imprinted by our parents' energy, and we mistakenly think that we are designed like our parents. To do readings for people who are, let's say, manifesting generator types, and they think or feel as if they are projectors. And when we go back and we look at their parents' charts, we see that their parents are projectors. And so they've grown up in a household with adults who have been acting like projectors. And so they get imprinted by the behavior of their parents, or maybe you've been imprinted by the behavior of your parents, and you take that imprinting with you. Now, this gets really interesting when you start to look at this, particularly in the context of belief systems and when we're talking about relationships. When you look at this in the context of how was your parents' relationship, how did the behavior of your parents, the experience of your parents, how did your parents show up for their relationship or their relationships? And how did that perhaps imprint you about your beliefs and your experiences, or at least your thoughts around your own relationships? The third thing that takes us sometimes away from our natural DNA of love, our natural DNA design for being loved and to be loving, are generational energy patterns. Our generational energy patterns condition us. And again, sometimes they condition us to step away from or to act in a way that is not consistent with the truth of who we are, our authentic design. Here's an interesting thing to think about. And I think this is a very mind-blowing thing. And it explains a lot, okay? You actually inherit your human design from your grandparents, okay? So your chart, if you look at your grandparents' chart, if you have the ability to do that, not everybody does, because if our grandparents are a little bit older, it's hard sometimes to get the birth information, but you inherit your human design from your grandparents. So your chart's going to have similarities to your grandparents' charts. Now, of course, because if you think about this sort of intergenerationally, your children inherit their human design from your parents, okay? So now you start to see there's sort of a perfect formula happening here for intergenerational family dynamics. Your parents your grandparents have your parents. Your parents grow up with their parents going, okay, you know what, I'm not going to do it like them. And then you get born, and then you carry certain energy elements that are similar to their parents. So now they have an opportunity to work through maybe some of the challenges that they had in their relationship with their parents through you, only now they get to be the parents. And now they're doing things maybe differently than their parents. And you're going, and having the dynamic that they had with your grandparents, their parents, and then your kids get born, and then you get to do the whole thing over and over again. So it becomes easy to see why in families there are sort of intergenerational patterns that keep repeating, because a family gives you a legacy ultimately of intergenerational lessons that are here to be mastered. Your family is really the perfect environment for you to learn whatever you came here to learn on a soul level, right? And you get to do it sometimes over and over again through generations in this family. It's also really interesting to look at, because one of the things that I've noticed in the years that I've done coaching in human design is that sometimes when we clear up our own stuff, our own conditioning, and we get realigned back with the truth of who we are, it not only heals our own heart, it actually ends up ultimately healing your family legacy, particularly if there's maybe been a pattern that's been carried down through generations that is painful. When you do the work and you clear the pattern, it actually clears the pattern in both directions in your family lineage. And it's a pretty profound and beautiful thing to watch. The third thing that is going to imprint you or sometimes take you away from the truth of who you are is genetics. Your DNA actually has protein regulating coats on it. Those protein regulating coats are called epigenes. Your epigenes are actually will determine how your genes get expressed. Our genetics are actually much more malleable than we were taught in high school, or at least I was taught in high school. Your genes are not your destiny. Your genes are just a structural framework or a potential of what you could be creating on a biological, behavioral, and physical level. Your epigenes, the protein regulatory coats that influence how your DNA gets expressed, your epigenes are actually carry within them information from multiple generations before you were born. What that means is that sometimes we are born into genetic programming or genetic expressions that are based on events that happened to our genetic lineage generations before we were even born. So for some of us, that means some of the anxiety, for example, that maybe you've been carrying since the beginning of your life, and you're like, I don't know where this is coming from. It might be coming from something that happened to your grandmother before you were even born. And that experience, that trauma, that event may have been carried in such a deep cellular way in your grandmother that it influenced the protein codes, the epigenes, and was then consequently passed down genetically through your parents and then to you. Research is really new in this area. It's really a research field that in the last 10 years has exploded. And literally every week I find new data that is, I think, kind of mind-blowing in terms of how much our epigenetic programming is influencing our personalities, our choices, even our desires and our fears. The latest thing that I read, this is a recent study, and again, this was studies done on mice, so whether this translates to humans or not is questionable, but I did just recently read a study where they were hypothesizing that certain epigenetic codes or programming can be passed down for up to 14 generations. Now, as I said, I don't know if that translates to humans, but I think it gives us a very interesting perspective on why sometimes, especially from our families and our family lineage, we have behavioral traits that seem to be familial that maybe aren't even necessarily familial per se, but are a result of traumas or experiences that happened in our families before we were even born. And if they are creating behavioral traits that take you away from being loved or feeling loved or giving love, there are lots of really new and powerful ways, including the quantum alignment system, to get in there and actually up-regulate your gene expression, change your epigenetic programming, and literally shift your DNA. You're not doomed by this. This is actually a powerful place to see that we have malleability here, and you can change, you literally can change the expression of your DNA and the regulation of your DNA. Now, last but not least, and this gets a little weird, but roll with me on this. And again, in the video section on the Understanding Human Design, on the Human Design for Everyone Facebook page, where hopefully most of you are now, there are a couple videos about the design crystal and the personality crystal and the monopole in there as well. But for all intents and purposes, I'm not going to go deep into what is a design crystal, and I'm not going to go deep into your crystalline template of who you are. But here is what I just want to throw out to you. You are an infinite cosmic being that is ultimately capable on a cosmic level of infinite things. You come from a field of infinite possibilities, but you're in an earthly awareness at the moment. You're living on the earth in the earth story. So there is an aspect of who you are, the story that you're living, that contains, first of all, conditioning from the collective consciousness, some of what influences us, and even some of our beliefs, even the beliefs that are not always supportive of our experiencing love, come from the collective. Let me give you an example. In America right now, we are, as a culture, as a collective culture, very much living out a story of divisive, I would say, binary consciousness. There are a lot of divisive kinds of things happening that are manifesting as evidence in our government, for example, not just in our government, but as an example. And this isn't a political statement. This is just saying there's an energy of binary consciousness here, or polarized consciousness. That is collective consciousness. You might not have that personally in your design, and some of you do, by the way, in your design, and it's part of the nature of who you are. But if you are growing up in this culture and you are exposed to this culture, it is conditioning you. It is influencing, to a certain degree, your perception and your perspective on the world. You are embodying a story. You have a life story that you're living. Now, human design is a great way to help you understand that life story. Then let's just take an element out of the human design chart, for example. Some of you, when you look at your chart, you'll see that on your chart, there's a little thing that looks like a fraction. That fraction on your chart is called your profile, and it'll have 2 numbers on it. I don't particularly like the names of the profiles, so you don't have to get too heavy about the names. I like to rename them. But that profile tells you a lot about your learning style, your relationship style, and even about your life path. If you have a 2 in your profile, it means you're a hermit. Now, a hermit is simply an archetype, okay? A hermit is an archetype. So if you have a 2 in your profile, part of your story that you're living right now is you're living, hopefully you're getting the opportunity to live out part of the storyline of the hermit, which means you are a person who needs alone time to recalibrate, to stay healthy and strong. So when we embody into a life story, when you put on your human design suit, when you get born, part of what's conditioning you is the story that you're living right now. And that story also gets conditioned by the collective. And it may be that you love being a hermit, you do hermit really well, let's say, if you're a hermit profile, and you enjoy being a hermit. And it may be that, depending on what kind of a culture you grew up in, you got a lot of discrimination or maybe ribbing. People were teasing you, made fun of you because you liked all this alone time. Maybe they, think about, here's an example. Here's an archetype representation of the low end expression of the hermit. If you've ever read To Kill a Mockingbird, and you think of the character Boo Radley, right? Boo Radley is like the ultimate hermit, right? Now, in the end, of course, he's vindicated in the story, but Boo Radley gets a lot of, negative conditioning from the community that he's living in, right? People are afraid of him. They kind of make fun of him. They don't let him be alone, right? They're always in some dysfunctional kind of way calling him out, right? Until ultimately he really gets called out. But you yourself in your chart, you're living a storyline. And that storyline has a certain history with it, and it has a certain collective cultural identity. And that collective cultural identity and the story of the archetypes that you're embodying are going to also condition you. And you may be living out the high expression of that story and that conditioning, or you might be maybe wrestling with some of the lower aspects or the lower definitions of that story, depending on what your culture supports and depending on even your own perspective of it. So let's talk now about the dynamics of energy and relationships, because we have to really understand relationships from a long-term perspective to really get the real purpose and function of relationships. And honestly, part of why I like to have this conversation about the dynamics and the phases of relationships is because I personally think collectively, at least in the Western world, we don't do a really good job of talking about the long-term lifespan of relationships and the long-term potential of healthy relationships. We focus a lot on the energy dynamics of electromagnetism, but we don't really go beyond that in supporting each other and our collective consciousness around the idea of how do we go from those very basic mechanical things that bring us together to actually cultivating an evolved relationship of intimacy and genuine unconditional love. And to get there, we have to understand the 3 distinct phases in relationships. So in the first stage of relationships, we'll call this phase 1, we have attraction. Attraction isn't necessarily personal, it's mechanical. And when I say it's not personal, I'm saying it means that you can be very, very, very attracted mechanically to someone, and they might not be the right person for you. They might be married. You might be married, okay? And that has nothing to do with your life circumstances. It's just there's a mechanical thing that's happening there that draws you to someone or them to you. It is literally electromagnetic, okay? Attraction is an electromagnetic experience. And it oftentimes feels good because it feels familiar. So let's go through this. So just to demonstrate what this looks like, and I know this is hard to see on the slide unless you have a big giant screen, but if you've got, let's say on the top, you've got 2 people on the left and the right who are attracted to each other. If you put their 2 charts together, as I have done at the bottom, any place where you have a hanging gate, and actually I'm going to get out of here for a second because I want to see if I can show you what that looks like here, what I'm talking about when I say hanging gate. So if you look at this gate right here, You see, this person has this gate right here. That is a hanging gate, all right? And the other person has this gate right here. These two gates that actually, when they join up together, actually complete this channel right here. Sorry, this is hard to do. These two gates actually act like little magnets, right? So these are these two relationship magnets, each seeking each other out, and they see each other from across the room, and zing, all of a sudden they're drawn together. Now, this particular channel is all about passion and romance and articulation, being able to talk about your romantic feelings, being able to talk about the energy of your connection. So this is kind of a juicy connection to have with someone, potentially. When we look at relationship dynamics in human design, one of the things that we look at is oops, I have to clear that. One of the things that we look at is there we go. Sorry, I didn't want to take these lines with us for the rest of the call. One of the things we look at is how many electromagnetic connections do you have in your composite? Generally speaking, rule of thumb, and by the way, humans are terrible formulas. So these are rules of thumbs, not formulas. If we try to formalize humans, it never works. So humans don't always follow the formula. But for the most part, the more gates you have that are connected to a person's other gates, the more electromagnetic connections you have with someone, the juicier, the more attracted you are to that person. And it's a nice energy to have because it's ultimately an energy that binds you even when you get into the more juicier, more complex parts of the relationship, which is also sometimes called phase 2. So phase 2 in our relationships, now we go past the electromagnetic attraction, past that eyes locking from across the room and that zing that happens, right? Now we go to phase 2 of remembered patterns and themes. Once we start into the relationship and eventually the newness of the attraction or the electromagnetic attraction wears off, we start then to live out conditioned patterns and themes. Okay, that means you're living out themes that are related to your family heritage, all the conditioning stuff we just talked about. You're riddled oftentimes, both partners, with expectations. And sometimes the expectations are the partner is going to fix the parts that are hurting. And for some of us, especially those of you who are generators or projectors or reflectors, or for any of you who have a split in your chart, there's an expectation that you have that your partner is going to make you complete. Part of what's happening there is that we need and we want to get as much energy as we can to the throat center in the chart. If you are a generator, a projector, or a reflector, you will not have a motor connected to your throat. So when you go into partnership, you're always trying to find energy connections that bring energy up to your throat, because not only does it complete you energetically, so to speak, it actually makes it feel like you can get things done and you can get momentum in partnership with others. This phase 2 is kind of a masked phase. Sometimes we go into phase 2 and we go into phase 2 from a place of compromising what we want. We're still afraid that you won't be loved or you won't be accepted for who you are, that you won't be valued in the relationship. It's uncertain. We don't know the long-term consequences of the relationship. Is it going to last? Is it not? And so rather than showing up authentically, sometimes we're showing up living out old dramas, even living out false stories about who we think we are based on our conditioning. It is oftentimes a phase that's full of expectations and unmet energy needs and the dramas of unmet energy needs, which I'm going to talk about quite a lot at the end of this presentation. But when we go into relationship, most of us, if not all of us, are going into the relationship with a certain amount of energy needs. We have certain needs in our relationships that are not personal, so to speak. They are related to our human design or our energy blueprint. And we seek our needs, we seek out relationships in order to get these needs met. We're going to talk about those needs at the end of this presentation, or some of them anyway, just to give you some ideas about what I'm talking about. So the other thing that happens in phase 2 is we start to look at where is our partner like our parents. Okay? Now, I just want to throw this out here because there's a lot of psychology about women always find a partner that has issues that are like their dad, and men want a partner that and they're working out their issues with their mom. I'm going to tell you that if you look at, especially like if you look at all the people you dated and or married before the age of 40, you will see that probably most of the partners you picked in your youthful cycle of your life were partners that had charts very similar to your parents. And not just your mom or not just your dad, but oftentimes a conglomerate of the two. Okay? We are attracted to people who have energy designs similar to our parents because it's familiar and it feels good. And even if that person doesn't act anything like your dad or your mom, if you look at their chart, their energy still feels familiar. So they may have energy that's similar to your parents. They may not act anything like your parents, but they still carry certain themes from your parents. Now, that means is that sometimes our youthful relationships especially give us opportunities to heal things from our family of origin, or sometimes it's just we have to go through relationships to figure out, hey, that felt familiar, that was awesome, that's not really who I am. And sometimes we stick with those relationships because we go deeper in them too. I'm not saying that just because they're youthful relationships, they don't last. I come from a family where my parents have been married for almost 55 years this year. So youthful relationships can absolutely last. And when you understand what some of the dynamics of the attraction was in the first place, it allows you to then start dealing with the truth and not the fantasies and not the projected expectations. The third phase and the final phase in relationship is called real love. This is where you see acceptance and value in the partnership, where you learn to look at the energy dynamics, the conditioned patterns, the unmet energy needs, and you start to look at, okay, what's my role in all this? How do I talk about what I need and want? How do I better love my partner and really see and respect and honor my partner for who they are? How do I get loved and respected and honored for who I really am? We get there in this third phase. We go through the adventures of the electromagnetics and understanding the nature of our partner and learning to talk about who we are from the truth of who we are. And we then gain the possibility of moving into respect and acceptance for who you and your partner really are. You move into a place where you can have safe and honest communication, authentic appreciation, and where you are ultimately liberated from old patterns and conditioning. And these relationships, phase 3 relationships, are actually very personal. You create these bonds by being willing to transcend the mechanics of how you come together in your relationship. You do the work and you create a very personal and a very conscious relationship. The only way to move into phase 3 in a relationship is to truly know yourself and your partner, which is really honestly why I love human design and understanding and using human design in relationships, because in all my 28, it's actually not even 28 anymore, it's like 29 years of coaching, I would say that human design is hands down one of the most powerful tools for not only learning about yourself, but really learning about your partners, the people you love, your children, the people you're in relationship with, so that you can really start seeing them for who they are and ultimately really loving them way better. So let's talk now about energy needs and energy needs in human design. As you all may know, and if you're new to human design, this might be new to you. And again, if you go to understandinghumandesign.com, you can get information there about this. There are 5 energy types in the human design system. Manifestors about 9% of the population, generators about 37%, manifesting generators are about 33%, projectors are about 20%, and reflectors are about 1%. Each type has a different quality of energy, a different function, and a different role. Hopefully you know your human design type. If you don't, go to understandinghumandesign.com and get your free chart so you can discover your energy type, because it's going to help you understand a lot about what you need in your relationship. So we're going to talk now about the 5 energy types and the centers and communication and energy needs. This is going to be kind of a quick overview because we could literally talk about this. I have talked about this for months with my professional students, but I'm going to give you at least a good overview today. So get out your charts if you have them with you, because you might want to have them for this section. And let's start first to talk about Manifestors. What do manifestors need in relationship? Most importantly, manifestors need freedom in relationships. This is a relationship. If you've got a manifestor, if you are a manifestor in your relationship, you need freedom. And it's not freedom because you're going to go off and explore other things and your relationship be damned. It's that you have a lot of energy. And if you are a manifestor, or if you love a manifestor, they need to have the opportunity to experience their own inner creative flow and to express it in their own timing when it's right and correct for them. So that freedom is the freedom to be able to follow that inner creative flow when that inner creative flow dictates that it is now time to go into that creative process. If you are in a relationship with a manifestor, or if you are a manifestor in your relationships, as difficult as this can be, if you're a manifestor, you need to be informing your partner consistently about what you're doing. So when that inner creative flow says, okay, now it's time for you to go do this, you have to be sure, and this is not natural for the manifestor, you have to be sure that you turn around and look at your partner and say, hey, I'm going to go do this thing now, so that they know where you are and they know what you're doing. Because if you do that, it allows your partner, oops, hang on. It allows your partner to actually adjust themselves so that they can best support and best be aware of what they need to do to support you. And it also allows them to not be worried or afraid about where are you and where'd you go and why didn't you tell me? Do not ask manifestors questions or tell them what to do. If you're in a relationship with a manifestor, don't ask a question. Here's a tip though. You can make a statement like, I'm wondering if, or tell me about. Make open-ended statements or comments, and then let those open-ended statements or comments be the seed for dialogue. Asking questions actually causes a manifestor to call on energy that isn't natural to them. It actually causes them to drop into their conditioned expression, not the truth of who they are. And it doesn't feel good to them. And it can even times make them angry, because not because they're angry at you for the attempt to communicate, but because they can't access the information you're asking them for through questioning. But open-ended statements, seeding conversations helps. Now, manifestors have an emotional theme of anger. That anger isn't at you. It's anger that happens because they serve an inner creative flow, and sometimes it's an inarticulate flow, meaning it's a flow that doesn't have language with it. So a manifestor moves through the room and they're going da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. They're creating in sound in their head, not through language. And so when they stop or that flow gets interrupted, they get angry because all of this creative energy that they were in the flow of gets lost. They lose connection with that flow. And if they have to try to put words to it, it can actually be a really difficult process for them, and it causes their energy to kind of ricochet around inside their body, so they react, but they're not mad at you. They lost the flow, and that's the issue there. Generators. Generators need to be busy following their passion. So if you're a generator, you need to be doing what you love to do. And if you are in a relationship where you can't be doing what you love to do, maybe you have a job because you have children and you need to feed your children and it's a job that pays, but you hate it, it can sometimes take a toll on your energy or even on your relationship. Generators need to be asked yes or no questions when you're communicating with them. They need yes or no questions because it helps them access their deep inner truth of their sacral. That red square that's in the chart of all generator types contains a direction-giving source energy. And for them to lock onto that direction-giving source energy and for them to get access to what's true and right and correct and good for them, they need people to ask them yes or no questions. Do not tell a generator what to do. Ask them a yes or no question. Do you want to go to a movie tonight? Do you like that movie? Is that the movie you want to see? Do you want to go tonight? Do you want to go tomorrow? Is tomorrow better? Do you want to go out to eat before we go to the movie? These are ways of assessing what's up with your generator love. Don't tell them what to do, because actually, here's a secret. Not a single one of the human design types is designed to be told what to do. We're all designed to discover our own inner authority and what's true and right and correct for them. Generators get frustrated. They build up a lot of energy that's about creating. They're doers. The generators are doers. And sometimes that buildup of energy happens before the opportunity for them to spend that energy happens. Or sometimes in the process of doing something, they hit a plateau. They feel stuck. They get stuck with their work, or they get stuck in the relationship, or they get stuck around a situation. And before they have the breakthrough, there's a buildup of energy. And that buildup of energy often feels like frustration to the generator. And so they might get frustrated. And sometimes even in relationships, if you're a generator, you get frustrated and then you quit the relationship before you get to have the breakthrough in the relationship. So don't do that. Sit with it until you get an opportunity to feel into what's the next correct and right step. Manifesting generators. Just like the manifestor, manifesting generators need freedom. And that really is important to understand, particularly when we talk about neediness in relationships. Generators, projectors, and reflectors, they are people who need people, literally. Generators, projectors, and reflectors are people who need people. Manifestors and manifesting generators don't necessarily need people. That doesn't mean that when they're in partnership that they don't love. That's different than need. But they don't necessarily need. And sometimes when manifestors and manifesting generators get into relationships with generators, projectors, and reflectors, the generators, reflectors, and projectors are kind of disappointed, like, well, they don't need me. They don't, but it's not because of you. It doesn't mean they don't love you. It doesn't mean they don't want to be with you. It just means that they need freedom because they're kind of self-actualizing machines in that respect. Their creative energy is independent. Whereas as a generator, projector, and reflector, your creative energy is more about gathering people together and working together. Manifesting generators, just like the generators, need to follow their passion. They need to also be informed or informing, just like the manifestor. They have to tell people, well, I'm going to go do this now. They don't have to ask permission, but they need to tell people what they're doing, because if they don't, the people around them get really confused and they don't know how to respond or react. Don't tell a manifesting generator what to do. Like I said, that's true for everybody. Ask them yes or no questions, just like you would a generator. Recognize that, like the generators, they have the potential for frustration, a lot of buildup of energy before they have a breakthrough in whatever's going on in their life. That frustration sometimes can be tinged with anger. So again, there's that manifestor theme here with the generator too. And again, none of it's personal. They're not mad at you. They're mad at the situation. And sometimes it can feel really personal and even really intense, and it's not. Good hint for manifesting generators, especially when they get frustrated, move your energy physically. Go get on a bike or go for a walk or go pound the pavement. Projectors, 20% of the population here to manage and guide and direct others. If you love a projector, they need recognition and attention. They have to be seen and they have to be heard. And that's really crucial for them to stay healthy and to feel loved. They need to be invited. If you love a projector in relationships, they need to talk to get clarity. They will be taught, they have to process what's going on with them through talking. They're not asking for advice, by the way, and that's important to understand. A projector is not going to ask for advice unless they need it, but they have to talk for clarity because they need to hear themselves processing out loud. Don't give your projector advice if they don't ask for it. That's pretty demeaning. They are totally capable of figuring it out on their own. Thank you very much, unless they ask. What they do need, though, is people to accept them and give them space to be able to talk or decompress or process their day. Just like with the manifestors, you want to make open-ended statements. With the projectors, true for reflectors as well. You don't want to ask them questions. You want to make statements. I'm wondering if, can you tell me about, talk to me about your day. If you ask them open-ended questions, it keeps their energy healthy. The greatest gift you can give your projector love is to ask them for their insights and advice. They're incredibly wise. They know way more than you realize. And when you ask them for their advice, it causes their energy to expand, and it allows them to live in alignment with their purpose, and it makes them feel loved. Projectors can often be very sensitive, so be aware that they feel and sense energy very intuitively and very sort of naturally. If they are exhausted or depleted, or they don't feel seen, heard, or recognized, or they feel like everybody else is getting opportunities and they're not, sometimes they can feel bitter. If your projector love is bitter, love on them mightily. Don't leave them. Love on them. Invite them to share what's going on and do your best to facilitate for them opportunities and experiences. Reflectors. are deeply sensitive, but also hugely impactful. The energy field of a reflector is very, very powerful. They're amplifying a giant amount of energy, and they're reflecting that energy back out into the world. Reflectors, just like projectors, need to talk for clarity. And they sometimes can talk a lot, some of them. Again, you need to hold space for them to be able to talk and to not give them advice unless they ask, but just to listen. Reflectors need consistency. They have a lot of their aspect of their energy is changing all the time. They love to be in partnerships that stay consistent, and oftentimes will be in partnerships for a very long time because they like to be with people whose energy they know. Reflectors need a lot of time, sometimes a month or two, for clarity around big decisions. Being in the right geographical location is crucial for your reflector love. So if they're not in the right place, they oftentimes feel very uncomfortable or out of place. They don't feel like they're home in their life. So help your reflector love find the right place. They can oftentimes experience a lot of disappointment. A reflector is deeply wise about the potential for humanity. And when they go out into the world and they see what's going on, it can be sometimes very disappointing. They can also be really disappointed because sometimes they get under a lot of pressure to make snap decisions and they can't. And so they get into situations where they make a snap decision because they got pressured. They didn't recognize they needed more time for clarity. And then they're disappointed because they're stuck with a decision that they made that they wish they hadn't. Let's talk briefly, and this is really super brief overview, but just something to think about and give you some more insights into the energy needs of the centers, and most importantly, maybe some of the energy needs that you have, or your love has, or your children have, or your parents have, or your friends have when you engage in relationships. So this is not by any means all of the centers or all of the information about energy needs. And in fact, the quantum alignment show that I'm going to do, not next week, not the following week, but the 3 weeks from now, I'm going to continue with this conversation about unmet energy needs and how sometimes our unmet energy needs or our lack of awareness of our unmet energy needs actually sometimes creates mischief in our relationships, and how we can start to really learn to ask for what we really need and want, and to give our lovers, our partners, our children, give them what they really need and want energetically so that they can feel strong and healthy, and most importantly, feel loved. When people help us get our energy needs met, and we all have energy needs, they're different depending on our hardwiring, but when you get your energy needs met in a relationship, it feels good and you feel loved and you feel respected. So if you have an open or a white throat center, you need extra support with attention and recognition. If you have a G center connection to the throat, meaning if you have a yellow diamond in your chart and it has any or all of these channels colored in, it can be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. It means that when you speak from the heart of who you are. And that also means that when you speak, you can be very vulnerable to criticism. And sometimes if you ever get criticized or judged by other people, it'll actually cause you to backpedal and even shut down your own creativity and your own expression in the world. If you have an open or a white G center, you may find that you have a tendency to question your own lovability. And you might find that you even make decisions in relationships in an attempt to try to prove your love worthiness. If you have an open or a white will center, and that's almost all of us, you will question your own value. Am I valuable? Am I worthy? And that questioning your own worth can actually sometimes cause mischief in relationships. If you have a defined or a red will center, then you need power and you can be willful. And people will sometimes project onto you that you're going to take care of everything. But that can be exhausting. And if you have a defined will center, you need cycles of rest to stay healthy, consistent cycles of rest to stay healthy. If you have a white sacral center, that's not the square at the bottom, but the square kind of in the bottom middle of the chart, you need alone time, big time. So this is manifestors, projectors, and reflectors. You need alone time. You need help knowing when enough is enough. Sometimes you forget. You're not here to work in the traditional way that we think of as work, and that becomes sometimes an issue in a relationship dynamic, particularly if you are in a partnership where there are children or other people to be supported. You need to learn how to sleep correctly to stay healthy and to stay strong in your relationship, which means you need to be in bed before you're tired. And you need to be lying down flat. And honestly, if you're a manifestor, projector, or reflector, you do better sleeping in your own space or even optimally in your own bedroom. And it's not about your love. It's not about not snuggling or even making love to your partner. It's about needing to be in the integrity of your own aura when you sleep at night to stay healthy. If you have either or both, a white or an open root center, that's the square at the bottom, or a head center, that's the triangle at the top, you might find that part of what happens to you in relationship is you feel pressured a lot. And that pressure sometimes causes you to make decisions or to make choices or even say things or do things that you don't want to do, but you do it because you don't want to experience the pressure. And you may feel like your partner's putting pressure on you, and they might not be. It might be the nature of how this center actually works for you. If you are a third line or a sixth line profile, remember the profile is that little funny fraction on your chart that's part of your learning path and your learning cycle and part of your life path and even your relationships dynamics. There's a lot of information contained in that profile. If you have either a 3 or a 6 or a 3 and a 6 in some cases, it means that one of the things that's important for you is that you need to make mistakes, and you are an experiential learner, meaning you learn by doing. So in your relationships, people who really love you need to get that you have to experiment with something first before you get it right, and to not have an expectation around you that you're going to get it right the first time you do it. That you might need to try all kinds of different ways of doing it before you lock onto the thing that really works for you. If you have either the gate 19 circled on the left here in this slide, or an open solar plexus. So if you have the triangle on the right-hand side, white, not brown, but white, means that you are exceptionally sensitive. You feel and sense people deeply. You are an empath. And again, that can deeply impact you in the context of your relationships. If you have a defined spleen, sorry, forgive me. If you have an open spleen, a white spleen, not a brown one, a white spleen, that's the triangle on the left. Or if you have anything in the sensing circuit, that's the circuit defined on the right. And I know that this is hard to see on the screen. I will post a link to the slides later underneath here on the Facebook page, so that if you want to go look at this more closely, you can. This is the sensing circuit. This is the right-brained, holistic, creative way of processing information. Sometimes people who have a lot of sensing, or sometimes people with an open spleen, get overwhelmed and can feel inadequate. And that sense of inadequacy in relationship makes it hard to know what's the next thing to do, what's the next step to take. And that inadequacy sometimes can cause us to shut down, and it affects, of course, our self-esteem and our self-worth. As I said, this is just a brief overview of a ton of information that I can't wait to share with you. I hope it's given you some really powerful insights into some aspects of your dynamics in relationships, what might be keeping you from really being true to yourself in your relationships, what might be going on in some of the dynamics with you and your partner. And as February progresses, we're going to continue to be talking about heart and adding heart to your life and deepening your capacity to not only love your partner, but to also love yourself. Because it's Heart Month, I've got a couple of specials for you. But before I do that, I just want to share something with you. I'm going to give you some heart facts. So hang on just a second. I'm actually going to pull this up on a piece of paper, see if we can read this. Hold on just a second. I have to read this because it's a lot of data. And I want you to know that I pulled this information off of the HeartMath site. And if you're not familiar with HeartMath, I do encourage you to go check it out. It is an incredible research consortium that does phenomenal research on the power of the heart and how we can elevate the experience of our heart, and how we can ultimately use our hearts not only to heal ourselves, but to heal the world. So their website is heartmath.com. But I'm just going to read this to you so you can listen. You can read along if you want. In the new field of neurocardiology, for example, scientists have discovered that the heart possesses its own intrinsic nervous system, a network of nerves so functionally sophisticated as to earn the description of the heart brain. The heart contains over 40,000 neurons. This little brain gives the heart the ability to independently sense, process information, make decisions, and even to demonstrate a type of learning and memory. Your heart remembers. In essence, it appears that the heart is truly an intelligent system. Research has also revealed that the heart is a hormonal gland manufacturing and secreting numerous hormones and neurotransmitters that profoundly affect body and brain function. Among the hormones the heart produces is oxytocin, well known to be the love or the bonding hormone. Science has only begun to understand the effects of the electromagnetic fields produced by the heart, but there is evidence that the information contained in the heart's powerful field may play a vital role synchronizing in the human body, and it may actually not only just synchronize the physiology and the intelligence of your own body, but it actually may affect others around us as well. So back to the slides for a second. I have to push all these buttons to get back to this. Okay. So I'm going to be sharing with you over the course of the month lots of heart facts, because I want us to evolve our understanding of our heart and our relationship with our hearts, because when you are aligned with the heart of who you are, not only do you get to experience greater love for yourself, you actually influence what you attract into your life, and you influence the quality of your relationships. Now, to get back to that place of being in your heart, I just want to remind you, we are here to love ourselves, be powerful, express ourselves, redefine the story of who we are, and do forgiveness work each and every day, to be connected to source, to be vital, to feel and to know we are supported, and to live from a place of compassion and sharing. These are pathways to opening up the heart. And these are pathways to not only opening up your heart, but actually to opening up the heart of your relationship. Now, one of the things I'm just going to show you over the course of the month of February, I have a couple of specials that I'm offering. The first thing that I'm doing is I'm actually offering platinum relationship readings. These are 90-minute readings that include in-depth looks at your chart and your partner's chart, and also at your composite chart. So this is a huge, beautiful overview of you, your partner, and the dynamics in your relationships. Normally, a 90-minute platinum relationship reading is an $895 program. I'm offering this month in February, you can purchase a relationship dynamic reading for $497. I only have 10 slots open for that. We've already sold 2, so we have 8 slots open for that. I am throwing in this month, in addition to the reading, which in and of itself is incredibly transformative, I just got a testimonial recently from a couple who I did a reading for them a couple of years ago. They were on the verge of getting divorced, and we did the reading. It gave them so much information that they actually figured out how to stay married. And not only did they just figure out how to stay married, they actually went and adopted a child, and now they have this beautiful little family, and they all do human design within their family, which is just, I think, beautiful. I'm also going to give you, as part of the platinum relationship reading, because this isn't just a reading, this is actually a whole program for you to work. I'm going to give you the Transform Your Relationship Home Study Program, which is an intensive, in-depth program that shows you how you can really understand your partner better, how you can communicate better with your partner's unmet energy needs, talks about your design, your unmet energy needs, and how you can actually really learn to communicate and support each other in getting your needs met. You'll also get the Introduction to the Human Design Home Study Program, a copy of my new book, Inside the Body of God, and the Human Design Activation Guidebook. If you want to go deeper into your relationship, but just get a laser reading, you just want to go in short and look at, okay, give me the bullet points. I do have 30-minute laser sessions that are also available that'll give you and your partner a powerful list of things you need to do to increase intimacy, deepen your connection, acceptance, and love for each other. Or if you are single and you want to look at your relationship dynamics and even some of your relationship patterns, and sometimes even challenges in your chart that may be keeping you from really allowing yourself to attract a partner that is worthy of you, your soulmate partnership, These laser sessions can help you really get in there and redefine and realign what you're doing and how you perceive yourself, and really help you move into a deeper sense of love and love worthiness. Those are normally 297, not 900, 297. And for the month of February, you can book a laser relationship session for 247. In addition to that, I'm going to throw in the Introduction to Human Design Home Study Program, which is an extensive program that helps you understand the parts of your chart and your unique human design, as well as the Soulmates by Design Home Study Program. I also have a brand new course that I'm teaching called Sexuality by Design. It is for singles or couples. This is a process. This is a 2 90-minute classes that are going to help you deliberately create an evolved level of intimacy in your partnership. And this isn't just about sex. Certainly it has aspects of sex and sexuality in it, but this is really a path to help you craft a path to intimacy. How are you seen? How can you be seen in your partnerships? What do you need to be seen? What do you need to be loved? This class starts on February 19th. It's actually February 19th and 26th from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Central. Both of the 90-minute sessions will be recorded if you can't be there live. This program also includes the Soulmates by Design Home Study Program, and it is only a $47 program. It's a really great value for what I think is really some of the most important information in human design. And one of the things I do when I teach people about, especially sexuality and intimacy, is people really start to see, oh, I'm not broken. I'm not screwed up. There's nothing wrong with me. This is my hardwiring. How can I bring out the juiciest, most loving, intimate aspect of myself and share it with the world in a way that honors me and honors the partnerships that I'm involved with? So as I said, that's only a $47 program. I am going to post all of the information if you want to book the Platinum reading or book a laser session or join the Sexuality by Design program. I will post registration information below so that you can get started. And especially if you're going to join any of the classes or do the readings, it gives you time to really go into the home study program so you can show up for your reading really prepared and go deep into the important questions for you in your relationships. If you register for these programs before midnight on Monday, I'm also going to include for you the Alchemy by Design program. It's a $197 program. It's a home study training that helps you discover your energy blueprint, uncover what's really holding you back, discover how to unlock the magic of synchronicity and interpret signals and really tap into your intuition. Learn how to craft a plan of action that allows you to heal and align with what you're really here to do. It's a program that's going to show you how you can change some of your DNA expression so you can release old family patterns. And I'm going to show you new and powerful techniques based on human design and quantum science that are going to help you tap into the quantum field of possibility. So next week, I'm just going to get out of here for a minute. Join us next week. I'm not going to give you anything more than a hint that says I got something really special I'm cooking on. And so stay tuned. I will announce all the details probably next week about what we're going to do here next Friday at 1 p.m. Central for the Quantum Alignment Show. But I've got something pretty juicy that I'm planning, and I can't wait to share it with you. So I'll just give you a little hint. It has something to do with the heart of who you are and how you can tap into the power of your heart to create not only what you want in your life and in your relationships, but ultimately how you can use your heart to heal the world. So good. That's it. I'm done. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm open to taking questions now. Cindy, shall we dive in?
Actually, I have not gotten any questions. We've gotten lots of thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. You're awesome for sharing valuable information. Horses are very in tune with the heart. I mean, but no questions.
Aha. Okay, good. You guys all got it. So good. Awesome. Good. Well, I hope this was a good start for you to really rethinking some of what might be playing out in your relationships, and that this information gives you.
One question that came in.
Oh, we did have a question. Okay, go ahead.
James said, and he's in Zoom, what does work really mean?
What does work really mean? That is a powerful question. So traditionally, I would say in our collective culture, work means having a job, a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 job. And so I would say part of what's up for our culture is a redefinition of what is work. And that is a powerful conversation, and that might be a good conversation for us to really have in March, when we can talk about the evolving economy, the quantum economy, and how we can become quantum activists and quantum entrepreneurs in the face of an economy that is really up for redefinition in a big way over the next couple of years. So I don't know if that helps, James, in the context of your relationship, but that's a big question I don't think I can answer in one statement like that.
Karen did say that we'll make the slides available later for there'll be a slide handout available for the presentation.
Yes.
Janice says, if mechanical attraction isn't the best relationship, what is?
Oh, I'm not going to say that mechanical attraction isn't the best relationship. It is a component of relationship. And honestly, I think most good relationships have some element of mechanical attraction, because it tends to be the glue that holds us together when we want to kill our partners. And we all go through cycles where we want to hit our partner in the head with a frying pan. So it's just that it's not the only thing, and it's not conscious. You know, you can be attracted to people and it's mechanical and it's not conscious. That ultimately the goal in relationship is to go beyond just the electromagnetic connections and learn how to really love your partner and accept your partner for who they are. You do inherit your design from your grandparents, and it's really going to be more in the quicker moving planets. The outer moving planets are more generational and they move much slower. So it's really going to be more in the sun, the earth, the moon, Mars, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. In those elements, you'll see more of your grandparents. It won't be all of your chart, but you'll have significant elements. You'll see a relationship. If you can run your grandparents' charts in your own chart, you'll see it. And then, okay, admin, what does it mean when both partners have half of a line? So if you both have the same gate in your relationship, composite, so if you both have the same energies, and this is true anywhere where you have the same energies, it actually means it's a place where you have common values or common energies. So it's nice to see that in a partnership. Is that it? More questions?
I think that was it for the questions.
All right.
This is a recorded. You can find it on Facebook. It will also be uploading it to Karen's YouTube channel. You would just look for, I think it's Karen Curry Parker. It'll come out. We'll put a link to it in an email that comes out.
Yes, we'll send it out for you guys, and there are lots of different places you can find it. So just check your email box. And if you're not on our subscription list, go up to the top of the Facebook page and sign up. I want to thank you all for joining me. You have a unique heart. No one else has a heart like yours. And so that heart, the heart of who you are, taking up this beautiful heart space on this planet in the cosmic plan of life, the heart of who you are makes the heart of who we are. So thank you for adding to the heart of who we are. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I look forward to talking to you next week. And I hope you enjoy February Heart Month. I hope you take some time today. Here's just a quick tip. Before you go to bed tonight, sit and just even in 2 or 3 minutes of silence, put your hand, particularly your left hand, over your heart. Just feel the warmth of the hand on your heart and just drop down into your chest and imagine that your heart can breathe, and just really imagine breathing through your chest, you know, kind of breathing almost into the hand that you place over your heart. Just hold that slow, gentle heart-based breathing even for 3 minutes tonight before you go to sleep, and connect with the heart of who you are. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Cindy, as always, and I will talk to you next week.